Moonrise, Chapter 13. The Hunt. The three nomads emerged from the trees, one by one, quickly nearing us. Carlyle, Jasper, and Emmett stepped forward to greet them, as the rest of us scattered loosely around Edward and Bella. The three strangers stood facing us, and they immediately loosened up, most likely due to Jasper ejecting calm through them. The man in front was the leader, based on his stance and aura. He stood tall and gave Carlyle a slight smile. The woman to his left looked rougher than he did, and her eyes moved around us restlessly. The final male hovered a little behind the other two, his eyes the deepest red of them all.
"We thought we heard a game,"
the man with the dark hair said in a relaxed voice, with the slightest of French accents.
"I'm Laurent. This is Victoria and James."
He gestured to the vampires beside him in turn, with no more than a glance.
"I'm Carlyle. This is my family. Evan and Jasper, Rosalie, Esme and Alice, Edward and Bella."
He pointed us out in groups, not pausing on any names, so he wouldn't draw attention to anyone.
"Do you have room for any more players?"
Laurent asked sociably. Carlyle matched Laurent's friendly tone.
"Actually, we were just finishing up, but we'd certainly be interested another time. Are you planning to stay in the area for long?" "We're headed north, in fact, but we were curious to see who was in the neighborhood. We haven't run into any company in a long time," he answered. "No. This region is usually empty except for us and the occasional visitors, like yourselves," Carlyle replied softly. "What's your hunting range?" Laurent casually inquired.
Carlyle ignored the assumption behind the inquiry.
"The Olympic Range here, up and down the coast ranges on occasion. We keep a permanent residence nearby. There's another permanent settlement like ours up near Denali."
Laurent rocked back on his heels slightly, shocked.
"Permanent? How do you manage that?"
There was honest curiosity in his voice as he said this.
"Why don't you come back to our home with us, and we can talk comfortably?" Carlyle invited. "It's a rather long story," he continued.
James and Victoria exchanged a look of surprise, but Laurent controlled his expression better.
"That sounds very interesting, and welcome."
His smile was genuine.
"We've been on the hunt all the way down from Ontario, and we haven't had a chance to clean up in a while."
His eyes moved appreciatively over Carlyle's fine appearance.
"Please don't take offense, but we'd appreciate it if you'd refrain from hunting in this immediate area. We have to stay inconspicuous, you understand," Carlyle explained. "Of course," Laurent nodded. "We certainly won't encroach on your territory. We just ate outside of Seattle anyway," he laughed. "We'll show you the way if you'd like to run with us. Emmett and Alice, you can go with Edward and Bella to get the jeep," he casually added.
The wind picked up then, and the human scent of Bella hit me almost immediately. I saw James from the corner of my eye turn towards Bella as he noticed it as well. His nostrils flared as he took in her amazing scent and took one step forward. Edward crouched then as all of us froze, minus James. A growl erupted from his throat, daring James to make a move closer to Bella.
"What's this?"
Laurent asked, his expression surprised, no doubt wondering how this human girl was still alive.
"She's with us,"
Carlyle stated. His voice had lost its nice tone and was now cold.
"You brought a snack?"
Laurent pressed as he looked at Bella and took a step forward, crouching the tiniest bit. Edward growled again and tensed even more.
"I said, she's with us,"
Carlyle said in a hard voice.
"But she's human," Laurent protested incredulously. Yes, Emmett said, at Carlyle's side, his eyes on James, waiting for him to make a move so he could pounce. It appears we have a lot to learn from each other, Laurent said after a moment. Indeed. Carlyle's voice was still cold. But we'd like to accept your invitation. His eyes flickered toward Bella and back to Carlyle. And of course, we will not harm the human girl. We won't hunt in your range, as I said, he promised. James glared at Laurent with anger as he said this. Carlyle measured Laurent's open expression for a moment before he spoke. We'll show you the way. Jasper, Rosalie, Esme, he called. They gathered together, blocking Bella from view. I was instantly at Bella's side, and Emmett fell back slowly, his eyes locked on James as he backed toward us. Let's go, Bella. Edward's voice was low and bleak. We ran to the side of the clearing, and Edward threw Bella over his back so he could start to run. I felt a set of eyes on me, and glanced behind me to see James looking at me strangely. The next person I looked at was Jasper. His eyes focused on me for less than a second, but we could both translate what the other said. Be safe. I turned and ran side by side with Emmett, with Edward right in front of us. We made it to the car, and Edward all but threw Bella into the back of Emmett's Jeep. Strap her in, he growled to Emmett. I got into the passenger side as Edward slid into the driver's seat. The Jeep started, and we were soon speeding down the empty road to Forks. I knew we were leaving, but where I didn't know. Edward was too angry to put a coherent thought together, so my visions were blurred as I searched for the future. Edward was cursing beside me as he drove along the streets. The car was absolutely silent, except for the heavy breathing of Bella. Where are we going? Bella asked, finally noticing that we were heading away from where she lived. None of us answered her. I would have, believe me, but I had no clue where we were going myself. Damn it, Edward, where are you taking me? She said, louder this time, and her voice more angered. We have to get you away from here. Far away. Now. He didn't look back at her. He kept his eyes on the road as he slowly edged on to 100 miles an hour. Turn around. You have to take me home, she shouted loudly, and started to struggle in the seatbelt harness she was trapped in. Emmett, Edward said grimly. Emmett immediately wrapped his hands around Bella so she had no chance of moving. No, Edward, you can't do this, she said. I have to, Bella. Now please be quiet. I won't. You have to take me back. Charlie will call the FBI. They'll be all over your family. Carlisle and Esme, they'll have to leave, to hide forever. Calm down, Bella. His voice was cold. We've been there before. Not over me, you don't. You're not ruining everything over me, she screamed. I spoke for the first time, my voice hard. Edward, pull over. He flashed me a hard look and then sped up, ignoring my request completely. Edward, let's talk this through. I tried to reason with him, but he was way beyond that. You don't understand, he roared in frustration. He's a tracker, Alice. Did you see that? He's a tracker, he growled furiously. I know that. Stop being an idiot and pull over. You aren't thinking clearly, I thought in frustration. Pull over, Edward, I stated aloud this time, my tone somewhat demanding. He sped up even more, the speed meter inching toward 110 miles an hour. Do it, Edward, I said in a final tone. Listen, Alice, I saw his mind. Tracking is his passion, his obsession. He wants her, Alice, her specifically. He begins the hunt tonight.
He doesn't know where. He interrupted me.
How long do you think it will take him to cross our scent in town? His plan was set before the words even left Laurent's mouth.
Charlie, you can't leave him there. You can't leave him. She thrashed against the harness with a gasp. She's right, I said. The car slowed slightly. Let's just look at the options for a minute, I coaxed. We have to think things through carefully. You can't act on impulse. Someone might get hurt. The car slowed again, more noticeably, and then suddenly we screeched to a stop on the shoulder of the highway.
There are no options, Edward hissed.
I'm not leaving Charlie, Bella yelled out, but he ignored her completely.
We have to take her back,
Emmett finally spoke.
No.
Edward was absolute.
He's no match for us, Edward. He won't be able to touch her, Emmett promised.
He'll wait, Edward growled. Emmett smiled.
I can wait too. You didn't see. You don't understand. Once he commits to a hunt, he's unshakable. We'd have to kill him.
Emmett didn't seem upset by the idea.
That's an option. And the female? She's with him. If it turns into a fight, the leader will go with him too. There are enough of us, Emmett told Edward.
There's another option, I said quietly.
Edward turned on me in fury, his voice a blistering snarl. There is no other option, he growled furiously at me.
I felt Emmett and Bella staring at him in shock, but I was unsurprised by his reaction. Does anyone want to hear my plan? Bella asked, breaking the silence in the car.
No, Edward growled.
I glared at him, finally provoked at how he was acting. You are being a jerk, Edward. Cut it out or I will make the final decision. Edward glared at me, daring me to do it, but I evenly matched his glare, telling him that I meant every word. He backed off and then took in a breath. Listen, Bella pleaded. You take me back.
No, he interrupted.
I glanced at him, raising my eyebrows. You take me back. I tell my dad I want to go home to Phoenix. I pack my bags. We wait until the tracker is watching, and then we run. He'll follow us and leave Charlie alone. Charlie won't call the FBI on your family. Then you can take me any damn place you want, Bella said. We all stared at her, stunned. That was a great idea, all things considered.
That's not a bad idea, really,
Emmett said, clearly surprised. It might work, and we simply can't leave her father unprotected. You know that, I said. It would kill her if anything happened to him, and you know that. I looked at Edward, waiting for his approval.
It's too dangerous. I don't want him within 100 miles of her.
Emmett was supremely confident.
Edward, he's not getting through us.
I thought about it for a minute. I don't see him attacking. He'll try to wait for us to leave her alone, I answered confidently.
It won't take long for him to realize that's not going to happen,
Edward snapped at me, but I just rolled my eyes at him. He was thinking too much about this. I demand you take me home. Bella tried to sound firm, but it sounded more like a plea. Edward pressed his fingers to his temples and squeezed his eyes shut. Please, she said, in a much smaller voice. He didn't look up. When he spoke, his voice sounded worn.
You're leaving tonight, whether the tracker sees you or not. You tell Charlie that you can't stand another minute in Forks. Tell him whatever story works. Pack the first things your hands touch, and then get in your truck. I don't care what he says to you. You have 15 minutes. Do you hear me? 15 minutes from the time you cross the doorstep.
The Jeep rumbled to life, and he spun us around, the tires squealing. The needle of the speedometer started to race up the dial. "Emmett?" Bella asked, looking pointedly at her hands that were pinned down.
"Oh, sorry."
He let her loose of his strong grip. A few minutes passed in silence, other than the roar of the engine. Then Edward spoke again.
"This is how it's going to happen. When we get to the house, if the tracker's not there, I will walk her to the door. Then she has 15 minutes.
He glared at Bella in the rearview mirror.
"Emmett, you take the outside of the house. Alice, you get the truck. I'll be inside as long as she is. After she's out, you two can take the Jeep home and tell Carlisle."
"No way," Emmett broke in.
"I'm with you,"
he practically whined.
"Think it through, Emmett. I don't know how long I'll be gone," Edward tried. "Until we know how far this is going to go, I'm with you," Emmett said.
Edward sighed.
"If the tracker's there," he continued grimly, "we keep driving."
"We're going to make it there before him," I told them confidently. "What are you going to do with the Jeep?" I asked.
His voice had a hard edge. "You're driving it home."
"No, I'm not," I said calmly. "Have Emmett drive it home, but I am definitely not." The unintelligible stream of profanity started again. Okay, fine, I thought, as guilt washed through me again. But I'm only driving it home because I'm the reason we're in this mess. "We can't all fit in my truck," Bella whispered. Edward didn't appear to hear her, though. "I think you should let me go alone," Bella said, even more quietly. He heard that.
"Bella, please just do this my way. Just this once,"
he said between clenched teeth. "Listen, Charlie's not an imbecile," she protested. "If you're not in town tomorrow, he's going to get suspicious."
"That's irrelevant. We'll make sure he's safe, and that's all that matters."
"Then what about this tracker? He saw the way you acted tonight. He's going to think you're with me, wherever you are," Bella reminded him.
Emmett looked at her, surprised again. "Edward, listen to her," he urged. "I think she's right."
"Yes, she is," I agreed. "Think it through, Edward. Her idea's a lot better than yours."
"I can't do that."
Edward's voice was icy. "Emmett should stay too," Bella continued. "He definitely got an eyeful of Emmett."
"What?"
Emmett turned on Bella then. "You'll get a better crack at him if you stay," I agreed. Edward stared at me incredulously.
"You think I should let her go alone?"
"Of course not," I said. "Jasper and I will take her." As I said this, I saw the future slowly mold into place.
"I can't do that,"
Edward repeated, but this time there was a trace of defeat in his voice. "Hang out here for a week, a few days. Let Charlie see you haven't kidnapped me, and lead James on a wild goose chase. Make sure he's completely off my trail. Then come meet me. Take a roundabout route, of course, and then Jasper and Alice can go home."
"Meet you where?" he asked.
"Phoenix."
"No, he'll hear that's where you're going," he said impatiently.
"And you'll make it look like a ruse, obviously. He'll know that we'll know that he's listening. He'll never believe I'm actually going where I say I'm going."
"She's diabolical," Emmett chuckled. "And if that doesn't work?" Edward asked doubtfully.
"There are several million people in Phoenix," she informed him.
"It's not that hard to find a phone book."
"I won't go home," Bella responded.
"Oh?"
he inquired, a dangerous note in his voice. "I'm quite old enough to get my own place," Bella suggested. "Edward will be with her," I reminded him.
"What are you going to do in Phoenix?"
he asked me in a scathing voice. Stay indoors? Duh, what else are we going to do?
I kinda like it. Emmett was thinking of cornering James, no doubt. Shut up, Emmett. Look, if we try to take him down while she's around, there's a much better chance that someone will get hurt. She'll get hurt, or you will, trying to protect her. Now if we get him alone... He trailed off with a slow smile.
The jeep was crawling slowly along now as we drove into town.
Bella?
Edward's voice was soft now. I looked out my window.
If you let anything happen to yourself, anything at all, I'm holding you personally responsible. Do you understand that?
Yes, she gulped. Edward turned to look at me then.
Can Jasper handle this?
He asked in a stressed tone. Give him some credit, Edward. He's been doing very, very well, all things considered, I murmured with a frown. I need you to have some more confidence in him, Edward. It would help us all, including him.
Can you handle this? He asked.
I looked at him for a second, and then brought my lips back, showing my teeth, growling loudly. I know what I'm doing. I'm not a little girl, Edward. She'll be safe with us. Edward smiled at me.
But keep your opinions to yourself, he muttered.